By 1943, the Gestapo had a name for the operative running escape networks across southern France: the White Mouse. Every trap they set came back empty. They posted 5 million francs on this person's head, the largest bounty in occupied France. What they did not know was that the most wanted person in the country was a woman. Not a soldier, not a spy, a journalist. And the Gestapo was never going to catch her. Nancy Grace Augusta Wake was born in Wellington, New Zealand in 1912. Her family moved across the Tasman to Australia while she was still a child. Through her great-grandmother, Purewa, Nancy carried Maori ancestry of the Ngati Mahanga Iwi, a thread of heritage rarely spoken of in the years that followed. By 16, she had run away from home, determined to make her own way. She trained as a nurse in Sydney, learning discipline and self-reliance, but the world was calling. An unexpected inheritance of £200 from an aunt was enough to buy a ticket out. She crossed the Pacific alone, passing through New York and London, before settling in Paris. There, she became a correspondent for the Chicago Tribune, reporting on a continent sliding toward chaos. In Vienna in 1933, she watched Nazi gangs drag Jewish men and women through the streets. The violence was not a story, it was a warning. That day, Nancy Wake made a private vow. She would fight fascism by any means she could. She was a journalist, not a soldier, not a spy, not trained for anything that was coming. But the world was changing, and soon, so would she. German forces swept into France in May 1940. 6 weeks later, the country surrendered. Trains left daily for the south, carrying anyone with the means or the nerve to escape. Nancy Wake held a French-American passport and enough money to buy her way out. She stayed. The choice was simple, but the cost was everything. In Marseille, she slipped into the shadows of the occupied city and began work as a courier. She carried coded messages tucked inside loaves of bread, smuggled food to families hiding from the Gestapo, and memorized routes linking safe houses from the coast to the mountains. Some nights, she guided Allied soldiers, downed airmen, and lost paratroopers through back alleys and farm tracks, moving them toward the border and freedom. Every journey meant checkpoints, searches, questions that could end with a bullet or the inside of a prison cell. Henri Fioca, her husband, understood the risk. He opened his bank accounts, paid for forged documents, bribed guards, and never asked her to stop. The work demanded discipline, silence, and trust. Nancy Wake became what the occupation required, a woman who did not run. The Gestapo called her the White Mouse. They meant it as an insult, an enemy who slipped through their traps, vanished into the cracks, and always reappeared somewhere else. By 1943, their frustration carried a price: 5 million francs for her capture. The reward posters went up across occupied France, a number so high it became a measure of their failure, not her fame. Nancy Wake moved through danger with a kind of reckless calm. At a checkpoint outside Toulouse, German soldiers demanded her papers. She fixed her eyes on the officer and announced she was the mistress of a German major. Her voice did not tremble. They let her pass. Another time, at a roadside search, she leaned in close, powdered her nose, sipped from a flask, and smiled. Later, she recalled, a little powder, a little drink, and I'd ask, "Do you want to search me?" The guards laughed and waved her through. Each escape was a test of nerve. She did not hide behind disguises or false names. She relied on speed, wit, and the knowledge that hesitation could mean death. When the net closed in, she crossed the Pyrenees on foot, freezing, exhausted, slipping over the border into Spain. The Gestapo's white mouse had vanished once again, leaving only rumors and a growing legend behind her. Henri Fiocca was taken by the Gestapo in Marseille. They tortured him for information about his wife and her network. He refused to betray her. In 1943, he was executed. Nancy Wake escaped France believing he was alive. She fought the rest of the war thinking he was waiting for her. He was not. The knowledge would come only after the guns fell silent. Until then, she carried the weight of hope and loss, never breaking stride. In Britain, she was recruited into the Special Operations Executive, known as SOE. The Special Operations Executive did not seek out soldiers. They wanted people who could vanish, people who could lead. Nancy Wake became one of their most determined agents. Her training was relentless: hand-to-hand combat, explosives, sabotage, silent killing, codes and ciphers, parachute jumps into darkness. She learned to kill with her bare hands. She learned to disappear. A French colleague would later say, "She is the most feminine woman I know, until the fighting starts. Then she is like 5 men." The transformation was complete. The journalist from Wellington was now a weapon, forged by loss, discipline, and the refusal to yield. On the night of April 29, 1944, Nancy Wake dropped from a Royal Air Force bomber into the black fields of Auvergne. She was not alone. The 3-person team, codenamed Freelance, landed with orders that were clear and urgent. Unite the scattered resistance, turn chaos into a fighting force. Every village, every wooded valley, hid men and women ready to fight, but divided by fear and distance. Wake's mission was to bring them together, to forge a single weapon out of hundreds of small, desperate bands. The risk was absolute. The Gestapo's bounty still hung over her head. She had lost her husband, her old life, and any chance of safety. Still, she returned. Not as a courier, not as a messenger, now as a leader, sent to rally thousands for the battles ahead. By the summer of 1944, Nancy Wake was no longer just an agent in the shadows. She was the command figure for one of the largest resistance forces in France. Nearly 7,500 Maquis fighters looked to her for orders. Their weapons came by parachute, their training by necessity, their discipline shaped by the threat of annihilation. The Gestapo's most wanted woman now directed sabotage, ambushes, and supply drops across the forests and hills of Auvergne. Every move was a gamble. The Germans knew the region was a nerve center for the resistance. They sent wave after wave, tanks, infantry, and SS units, more than 22,000 soldiers in total, dispatched to crush the Maquis before the Allied invasion could reach them. The numbers defied belief. A journalist from Wellington, New Zealand, barely trained as a soldier, now leading thousands against an army 3 times their size. Her force blew up bridges, derailed trains, and cut German supply lines ahead of D-Day. When the final attack came, the Maquis did not break. They held their ground, outmaneuvered the enemy, and forced a retreat. The improbable became real. 7,500 resistance fighters, under the command of a woman the Gestapo could never catch, stood victorious where defeat was all but certain. Radio codes lost to a German raid left the entire network blind. Wake did not wait for orders. She took a battered bicycle and rode 500 kilometers across occupied France, crossing mountains and rivers, through towns crawling with patrols. She cycled for 3 days and nights, slipping through checkpoints, bluffing her way past suspicious eyes, legs shaking, mind fixed on the message that had to reach London. The line reopened just in time for the signal that would guide Allied planes before the invasion. Danger was never theoretical. During a raid on a German outpost, an SS sentry turned, about to shout the alarm. Wake closed the distance and struck with one sharp judo blow to the throat. The sentry dropped without a sound. Years later, she recalled it with the same flat tone she used for everything else. "I just whacked him as hard as I could. Whack." No bravado, no drama. Just the action that kept her people alive. The most decorated Allied servicewoman of World War II, honored by 4 countries, hunted by the Gestapo for years, never caught, never stopped. Freedom is the only thing worth living for. Her name was Nancy Wake.